Good evening. I think somebody in the Treasury got their sums wrong when they were advising the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. You see, the Labour government say it's not a problem. 75% of farms just won't be affected by these new inheritance tax rules. And yet the National Farmers Union themselves say it will be at least 2/3. I have to say my conclusion on all of this is the small farmer, somebody running 5 or 10 acres, a smallholder basically, will be fine. The giant agribusinesses, they'll be fine as well. It's the people in the middle that simply won't be fine. Property prices over the last few years have rocketed. Land prices too. In fact, in Lincolnshire, an acre of land now is about £30,000 an acre. And it is true that some billionaires have bought up vast tracts of farmland without ever intending to farm them themselves as a way of avoiding inheritance tax. But what this proposal does is to hit families running farms, families whose incomes are incredibly modest, far more modest than I think most people believe. They've got an asset, yes, that's worth a lot of money. Although, for many of them, it isn't just about money. It's about a way of life that's been going on for generations. And I would ask people to think, our countryside is admired the world over. People love the British countryside, and one of the reasons is those families have farmed it so well for so long. Now, this was far from the first time that I've been out with the rural communities protesting in this country. I was out 20 years ago, protesting against the hunting ban. Indeed, 406,000 of us marched on that countryside march. We weren't listened to by the government at all. It kind of didn't matter because it was the Conservatives that held the rural constituencies, not Labour, and Blair wasn't bothered. This time, it may be different. Well, I turned up on parade. I have to say, on a personal level, I was really, really thrilled at the welcome that I received from people queuing up in Whitehall.
Sort them out, Nigel.
It needs something, doesn't it?
Well, that was very touching, but it summed up the day. People were, despite their fears, and by the way, I visited farmers in Essex who've literally been in tears talking about this because they're really, really scared about the impact. But in fact, the atmosphere was amazing. It was upbeat, it was jolly, it was peaceful. I barely heard a swear word all day. It was extraordinary. It was a remarkably British thing. That's how we do it. But I did hear one or two people saying, well, maybe we ought to be a bit more like the French. Whether that's really good advice, I don't know. Can we make any progress with this? Well, Jeremy Clarkson was there, which was good to see, given the recent medical problems that he's had. And I think he feels, as much as I feel, that something can be done about this. And here's the reason why. Labour now have somewhere between 70 and 100 seats they won at the election in rural or semi-rural constituencies. And I think what this movement now needs to do is not just to get together in London, but to be seen in market towns all over this country, especially ones that Labour won by very narrow margins at the next general election. I always knew that the hunting ban was going to come in. I always knew that no one would listen. But this time, I think we can get a change. I think we can get a serious revision of that starting level. Well, the Prime Minister was interviewed by GBNews' Chris Hope earlier on today in South America at the G20. Doesn't look like he intends at this stage to budge.
Very important for me to keep making the case that it's only farms and assets over £3 million in a typical case.
Yes.
of parents wanting to pass on to their children, and therefore for that reason I'm confident that the vast majority of farms will not be affected. I grew up in a rural area. I know firsthand that rural areas, farming communities, they do need the investment that we put in the budget.
There we are. He's not budging. My question for you at home. Is this just the start of a rural revolt? Yes or no? Give me your thoughts. Farage at gbnews.com. Liz Webster, who's been on this programme a few times before, founder of Save British Farming. I guess in one way you must have been quite pleased to see so many people there.
It was a great day and a fantastic turnout, and I thought it would be a big turnout because there's so much emotion and anger. And it's not just farmers, because there's lots of other sectors that feed into farming, as well as local people. I mean, from my village, the local pub owners were there today.
Yep.
And people feel as if it's an attack on rural communities in particular. And it's not just about the inheritance tax. There's many other things that are going on as well, particularly with the national insurance changes that's hitting small and medium-sized businesses. But it also, as you refer to big businesses, big agricultural businesses, they're hit too. I know one of the country's biggest raspberry growers, his wages bill has gone up by £4.2 million. And he just doesn't have the money to pay that. And what it means is that raspberry business might no longer exist. And there's nowhere to import those raspberries in from. So we might be raspberryless because of this government.
Interesting. I mean, your point about it's not just IHT, I agree with you. Actually, a lot of farmers very unhappy with the growth of solar energy, not happy with rewilding, not happy with what net zero targets might mean. And we've seen this revolt happening all across Europe in terms of nitrates, in terms of carbon. But I also felt, Liz, today, and I talked to lots of people today, a real feeling that an urban elite that make the rules are completely disconnected from the rural countryside.
The problem is Keir Starmer promised to be better than what we've seen before, especially in terms of lying and, you know, being honest. And he went to the National Farmers Union and promised that he wouldn't do this. And he didn't just promise, he actually empathised with the loss of a family farm. And farmers are very down-to-earth people, and they're very genuine. And if they shake on a deal, they shake on a deal. And he has gone to our conference. He didn't say it in Parliament, or he didn't say it in his constituency. He said it in the Farmers' Conference. And that has really, really irked people. And he's also now he's relying on information, data, which even DEFRA don't agree with, which we all know is false. And it was shown today because everybody there put their hand up who knows that their farm is impacted by it. I mean, in my village, the house down the road just sold for £1.5 million. It's got 1/4 acre. I mean, it's also like forcing us to take out our underwear drawer and wash it in public. You know, these details about the value of your farm is really, really personal. And there we are working day in, day out, 7 days a week, often through the night when you're lambing and calving. And the gratitude that we've had from the Labour Party, who said they were going to be a friend of the farmers, to repay us with this. And also then to actually insult our intelligence by using data which is wrong. And they keep repeating the same lies over and over and over again. And it's being forced down our necks. And they're not even listening to... I mean, there's plenty of agricultural accountants out there and specialist agents, and they won't listen to any of them. They're just relying on Treasury figures, which are wrong. And there is no consideration for food.
No,
Everybody needs food.
No, not even discussed.
And the world is, you know, in a very difficult place, and there's no consideration. We are bound to get food shortages anyway because of the flooding in Spain. And we've lost 2 of our very biggest salad growers because the last government didn't keep the greenhouses open. A lot of the Lee Valley growers have gone because of the gas prices. We are heavily reliant on Spain for fresh food in the winter. We've had a mild autumn, and I can tell you now you're going to start to see real shortages. And that's before the farmers begin to hold back food. And this government haven't considered what impact that is going to have on the stability of the country. And if I was an advisor to Keir Starmer, I would be pushing that forward. We've had some very difficult riots in these last few months. Do we want to have that again? No, we don't. Think about the food system. Even the supermarket bosses are saying this is going to cause problems on the shelves.
This dimension.
Why would you invite food shortages?
I think what you just said adds a very large amount to this debate. I'm joined by Sir John Redwood, former Conservative Member of Parliament, and Alex Cairns, political commentator and founder of Youth Vote UK. Alex, the point at the end about potential food problems, that was quite impactful, wasn't it?
Look, I understand that there's going to be frustration not just in your sector, but actually in lots of sectors. You know, look, there's people complaining that the last few years have been tough. Obviously, post-COVID, the economy has struggled. Obviously, we've seen lots of people leaving the UK because of, you know, Brexit or a range of factors where lots of sectors have been struggling. And it's a very, very complicated issue. But let's remember, right, about the IFS say that about 20-25% of farms are going to be affected with this, right? Whether you agree with that or not,
no one does.
We can discuss that, right? But actually, a significant amount of farms. I mean, the idea, right, for a long time, inheritance tax has been exempt in this sector, right? Why should ordinary people that have property, that have to pay 40% inheritance tax, be penalised, but the farmers don't have to do that?
Because the farmers are the stewards of the countryside, and without them, our country wouldn't look the way that it does.
You can easily exempt it, because all you have to do is say any working farmer who's earning the majority of their income from a farm can be exempt. It's that simple. And then Jeremy Clarkson, who we know earns a fortune through television, will have to pay inheritance tax on his farm. But I would say Jeremy Clarkson has been brilliant. I mean, he farms near to me. For that area, he's brought in a huge amount of money for Chipping Norton. He's done an enormous job in talking to people about what farming needs.
He was clear today.
But this politics of envy,
he was clear today that it wasn't.
Ghastly.
Clarkson was clear today. It's not about me. It's about the struggling family farmer. John, the Prime Minister saying, well, don't worry, because very few people qualify, and anyway, you know, you could get up to 3 million before you start to pay this. How does that work?
How wrong he is, and as we've heard, he broke a very important promise to family farmers, and we need to keep those family farms together. A farm of 200 acres with a farmhouse could easily be worth more than £3 million. You make very little money on it. A lot of farmers would say we need a bigger unit than 200 acres. And these people want to split them up or throw them out altogether. They want to put them out on the streets because they'll have to sell a load of the land in order to pay the tax, and then they won't have any unit at all.
You say these people. We know 40% of farms are owned by institutional investors, right? There's a lot of people...
a lot aren't.
No,
but talking about the family farms.
No. A big portion of farms and estates are owned by private investors, right? There's been a double standard. Ordinary people that have worked hard to pay off their mortgage and have an asset of, say, above £500,000 will have to pay inheritance tax. Are you telling me that there should be a situation for farmers and then for private tenants, you know, they should be penalised? It's already a double standard.
We don't want to penalise the tenants either, and the government you support is penalising all farmers with this massive increase.
The problem is...
We just heard 3/4 are not going to be included in this.
Well, I tell you what.
That's a different point, though.
That figure, Alex, is for the birds. You sound deeply unsympathetic towards our family farms in this country. In some cases, been on the land for hundreds of years. You don't care about them, do you?
No. It's not that I don't care about them. I just know that the UK economy has taken a hit the last few years. Every sector, there's been difficult choices. The corporation tax under the last Conservative government went up by 90% to 25%.
Can I just ask you,
small businesses have been affected.
Why didn't you go then for the subsidies that you're paying to North American landowners to chop down trees, chip it and bring it here to burn a supposedly green energy? That's costing us £500 million a year. If you got rid of those subsidies to Drax Power, and then we could actually support our farmers and do as I said, exempt any farmer that's earning most of their income from the farm. And that includes tenant farmers, because tenant farmers, I don't know if you've gone out and seen how much tractors cost and all of the machinery that you need to run a farm.
And the profit margins...
And the cost of your stock.
The last couple of years have been rotten years as well, haven't they? The weather's been terrible.
Tenant farmers were there today, and they are as angry as the landowning farmers. And there's often farmers that are a mixture of both.
But Liz,
we're a mixture of both.
I'm going to draw stumps on this because, actually, I'll tell you why. This debate's just started.
Yes.
No. Today was not the end of this.
It's a marathon.
I believe today was the beginning, and I think we're going to see some kind of rural revolt. And I think the most powerful point Liz made, apart from the food argument, is this doesn't just affect the farmers, it affects the pub. It affects the local engineering company. It affects the whole rural economy.
But we do need to grow a lot more food.
No.
I failed to get through to in the last Parliament.
Well, no more rewilding.
It's a big Brexit opportunity which we've missed.
No more rewilding, no more solar farms. Let's grow food.
Spend the money on the food.
Right, OK, we're going to take a break.